What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Baumbastic Podcast, presented by Inside Arkansas and hosted by the multi-talented and very handsome Andrew Ellis. And it is a beautiful Thursday, January 9th. It is freezing cold, and we might be getting some snow here in Northwest Arkansas and throughout the state. I know Central Arkansas might be getting hit pretty bad as well. So hope everyone's staying safe. Hopefully you're not at work today, or hopefully you're getting sent home early from work. I know that's the thing that's happening for some people. So hope everyone's staying safe and braving the conditions. You're stocked up on toilet paper and canned goods and all that. And also anybody that's listening from California, which actually may be a thing because Arkansas has a lot of players from the state of California. Hope everyone's staying safe with those forest fires, man. Like that's some scary stuff. My brain really can't comprehend that. I've never really spent any time on the West Coast and don't understand how stuff like that happens and how it spreads so quickly, but it's some scary stuff, man. So I hope everyone's staying safe and, in a good spot while they're listening to the best damn baseball show on the planet, the best damn baseball show anyone's ever thought about. Appreciate everyone for being here, and I appreciate everyone who is subscribed already to the podcast on the podcast feeds, whether it's Apple, Spotify, or Amazon, or whatever it is. The Baumbastic Podcast has its own feed. Leave us a 5-star review and rate us if you really like what we're doing here. And also make sure you subscribe to the Inside Arkansas YouTube channel because the content continues to flow. I know basketball season is not going well for a lot of folks. I know everybody's very unhappy, and that sucks. And the team's 0-2 start is not going to incite a ton of excitement with the fan base. But Curtis is continuing to crush it, man. And obviously, he might be saying some stuff that you guys don't want to hear, talking about the Razorback struggles, but nobody does a better job breaking that stuff down than him. And if you missed our postgame show last night, following the Ole Miss game, go check that one out. There was a lot of emotional support being offered there. It's just kind of hop in the foxhole, man. Arkansas basketball is going to have to dig themselves out of a hole, and we'll see if they can do it. But of course, we cover baseball here on this beautiful baseball show. And we are, I believe, 37 days away. I think it was 36 because I saw a video of Parker Coyle on my Twitter today. So that must mean we're 36 days away. And again, we are very excited for the season. So we've been doing a lot of like big picture analyzation of, I guess analysis is the word I'm looking for there. Some like a big picture look at like Arkansas's offense and how they stack up and, kind of the struggles that they've faced the last few years. And I went through some discouraging numbers a few days ago on the show, and I get why that it's not cool to talk about. And I saw somebody that was like, "Man, I was kind of encouraged when I listened to your first Nate Thompson podcast, and then after hearing that one about all the numbers, I'm kind of discouraged." And I get all that. And really, my point in the whole thing is that it's never as bad as you think. It's never as good as you think. Arkansas undeniably has some things to work on offensively. But I do think there's a lot of optimism for this year's group. I think the talent level in the Arkansas lineup is just up a notch that it's been in the last couple of years, which honestly isn't saying a ton. But I do think there's a lot of signs that point to improvement. And so, again, I apologize if people feel like I'm talking too much about the offense. But, again, I open the show up for questions. And a lot of the questions I get are about the offense, about home runs, about, approach, about Nate Thompson. So that's just what we've been talking about. And anybody that's been listening to the show regularly probably knows that there's this age-old debate with we're really hitting in general, but with Arkansas baseball in particular, where it's like Arkansas sucks at hitting, and the reason they suck is because they try and hit too many home runs. I've always kind of pushed against that notion and said that if Arkansas simply were hitting home runs at the rate that they had in past years, or even were keeping up with the times and hitting as many home runs as some of their peers, we wouldn't be having some of these conversations. Obviously, do you want to be well-rounded on offense? Yes. Do you need to steal a base here and there? Sure. Do you need to tag up and get from second to third? Do you need to shorten up and, with 2 strikes and put the ball in play whenever you got a runner on third, a scoring situation? Of course, like all these things you need to do all these things. But I've always pushed back against the notion that that Arkansas is a home run or bust type of offense. Like I don't, they rely on home runs. They want to hit for power. They want to hit the ball hard, of course. But I don't think that's necessarily the game plan going in, that Nate Thompson's like, hey, guys, I know we got runners on second and third with 1 out, but it'd be really sick if we hit a nuke right here. Like, I just don't think that's happening, at least to the extent that many fans are kind of convinced is happening. And so, look, again, I say I'm kind of rambling a little bit here, as I tend to do. But really all I'm saying is I've pushed back against the idea that Arkansas trying to hit home runs is bad, because really you need to hit home runs in this league. You need to be kind of keeping up in the arms race for for power in this conference. And is there plenty of room for Arkansas to improve, not only with the home runs, but improve in some of those situational hitting, stats? Of course, you got to be better with runners in scoring position. You've got to be efficient with the way that you move runners around. Like, of course, you need to have guys that hit for high averages. All that's fine and dandy. But if you just look at the numbers, which we have done on this show a lot, Arkansas's dip in power was a lot more consequential than anything else, any of the other random stupid things we talk about. Like if Arkansas simply were hitting, like in 2021, Arkansas finished, they hit 109 home runs that year, and they hit 87 this past year. Now they played, I guess, a few more games in 2021 because they went to the super regional, but like that's a pretty big dip in power when your opponents and your competitors in the SEC are all kind of going the other way. I mean, this past season, Tennessee led the country with 184 home runs. Georgia hit 151, and there were a lot of teams that were in that like 120 to 130 range. So for Arkansas to be sitting there at 87, it's pretty concerning. And so a lot of what we've been talking about is like, hey, can Arkansas bridge that gap a little bit? And we're going to talk about that a little bit on today's show because our question, it took me a while to get to it, but shout out to Caleb Morris, who says, how many double-digit home run guys do you think the Hogs will have this season? Who do you think leads the team in home runs? So I'm going to answer this question while also kind of answering some of the question of like, or my own self-imposed question of, can Arkansas bridge that gap? Can they go from 87 home runs to like 120, like, which would, by the way, be a school record, and it would also be in line with what their opponents are doing. I could see how you'd see that gap, and you're like, man, there's no way they're going to be able to make that up. I'm not actually that convinced that you can. So we're going to kind of go piece by piece in the lineup and talk about everyone's power output and kind of what you could expect to answer Caleb's question about how many double-digit home run guys there are. So last year, Arkansas had one in Fayetteville Aloy who hit 14. You had a lot of guys in that 8-9 range. So it's not like it was a completely useless lineup that nobody could hit for power at all. Like there were some guys that were close. If Arkansas had simply advanced to super regional, you probably would have had 3 or 4 maybe total in the double-digit category. But no doubt it was a disappointing power showing for the Razorbacks. And I mentioned that 2021 season when at least at one point throughout the year, Arkansas was leading the country in home runs. They were top 5 the entire year. That team that Arkansas had 6 double-digit home run guys. So if I come out here and I say, hey, I think Arkansas is going to have maybe 6, 7, maybe even 8, that may sound super optimistic, but it's actually not without precedent. And it's borderline attainable. I mean, we're going to talk about it right here. So I want to start with the returners real quick. So Fayetteville Aloy, of course, the one guy who hit double-digit home runs. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he will hit double-digit home runs again. He hit 14 as a freshman, as you see there. The parentheses, that is the career numbers for those that are not watching on YouTube. I have Fayetteville Aloy hit 14 home runs last year. Kendall Diggs hit 7 home runs last year, has 22 in his career, hit 12 as a sophomore. So we'll see if he's able to get back to that kind of range. That would obviously be very helpful. Nolan Souza and Ryder Helfrich hit 7 and 3 respectively as freshmen. Both of those guys. Now I'm gonna add up all these numbers. I'm gonna do a tally basically and just kind of give projections, and then we're gonna add it all up. I've got my handy dandy calculator over here ready to tally up the numbers, and we're gonna kind of see where that would leave us. But I'm going to circle back to Nolan Souza and Ryder Helfrich because they're kind of the X factors. They're the guys that you kind of have to hear me out. Where I think Ryder Helfrich is going to hit far more than 3 home runs. I think Nolan Souza is going to hit more than 7, of course. And those guys were part-time players. So that's not really that bold of a thing. But when you're trying to assess the numbers, they're the biggest like independent variables where we don't really know. We can project, but we don't really know. Whereas like Bahiva, I feel pretty confident in predicting for you he's going to hit at least 15 home runs, 15 in that to 20 range. And even Kendall Diggs, who's been in college baseball for 3 years, we have more to go off of in terms of what to expect from his power output. And I think it's going to be in that kind of 10 to 15 range. And the same could be said for some of these guys as we turn the page to the transfers. Again, for those not watching on YouTube, Brent Iredale hit 25 home runs, and I put 3 asterisks by it because it obviously came at the JUCO level. So it's not one of those 1-to-1. You can just be like, yeah, he hit 25 last year, 25 this year. We're talking about a completely different level of baseball. But of course, I do think Brent Iredale is a guy that you can really count on for some power production. Will it be 25? No, but I do think he's another bit of an X factor where we don't really know, but we know we got to expect something. Rocco Pepe, of course, hit 14 home runs last year at Fresno State, has 25 in his career. I believe he had 5 home runs the year before, his freshman year, redshirt freshman year, and then 6 the year before that, and then jumped up to 14. So you make of that what you will. Charles Davalon hit 10 in his one college season last year as a freshman at FGCU. Kahio Aloy, same situation, hit 8 home runs in his 1 year of college baseball at BYU. And Logan Maxwell hit 3 home runs after hitting 2 home runs the year before. He's kind of the one guy. Logan Maxwell is the one guy that is projected in the everyday lineup that, like, I am pretty confident will not hit double-digit home runs. Pretty much everyone else, I mean, you look, you see the numbers there. Like, obviously, Helfrich and Souza, 3 and 7. Like, that's not double digits, but we have very good reason to believe those guys are going to hit for a ton of power and will be candidates to hit double-digit home runs. So, again, going back to just everyone, there's really only maybe 1 or 2 spots that I would be, not expecting close to, if not reaching or exceeding double-digit home runs. Like, I think Kahio Aloy, for instance, that guy, he hit 8 last year as a freshman, and he was playing every day. It wasn't, wasn't a part-time player. He hit 8. Based on what we saw this fall, like, that dude's got some serious next-level power. Obviously, he's going to be facing tougher competition. So maybe, the replicating the 270 batting average might be tough, but I think from a power standpoint, it's not crazy at all to think that guy could hit double-digit home runs if he's playing enough games there at first base. And Charles Davalon hit 10, lower level. He's going from FGCU to Arkansas, but I mean, still Division I. We'll see. I mean, I think he's got plenty of power. I've mentioned his frame and his kind of ability to create more power than you would expect. I think 10 is honestly probably about fair. Like, I'm not going to go too much higher than that, but let's just play a game real quick. Let's just play a game. So we're going to do some math here. Let's see. Okay, so Fayetteville Aloy hit 14 home runs last year. Let's be conservative. I think he's got a real chance to hit 20, more than 20 even. But let's be conservative. Let's say he hits 18 home runs. Kendall Diggs, who hit 7 last year and hit 12 as a sophomore, we'll split the difference and give him 10. We'll say he hits 10. Is that fair? Is everybody on track? Are we okay with 10 for Kendall Diggs? Again, I'm going to circle back to Nolan Souza and Ryder Helfrich because they're kind of the big X factors here. Brent Iredale hit 25 home runs at the JUCO level last year. And he's a guy who's kind of getting some buzz as a draft prospect. We're going to go conservative with him, and we're going to just give him 15. Let's give him 15 home runs, which, again, if you see this guy play and he hit like 6 in the fall at Arkansas, which tells you a little something, I think 15 is like, it's being very cautious saying 15. Like, I think he's a real candidate to hit 20 plus. In fact, when I do my bold predictions before the season, I will be predicting him and Fayetteville Aloy to hit 20 plus each. But for this exercise, I'm going 18 and 15 for those two guys. I'm also going to be pretty conservative with Rocco Pepe, who hit 14 home runs last year, but it was a little bit of an outlier. So I'm just going to say 10 for Rocco Pepe. Let's just say he hits double digits. And then we'll say Charles Davalon hits the same 10 that he hit last year. And we'll even go 8 for Kahio Aloy, who hit, he hit 8 last year. But, like, again, I think there's a very real case to be made. He's going to be up more in that 12 to 15 range. But I'm just going to replicate with Davalon and Aloy what they did last year. And I'll do the same for Logan Maxwell. Give him 3. That adds us up to 74 home runs total. And we have not counted Nolan Souza or Ryder Helfrich or any of the bench guys, which, by the way, we'll go ahead and pull them up right now. Michael Anderson's competing for that first base job. He's got 23 career home runs, hit 13 last year. So if he ends up being that starter at first base, if I really wanted to fudge the numbers, I could have thrown him in there. Cam Kojal hit 5 as a freshman last year. Reese Robinette hit 2 as a freshman in 2023. Did not play last year, but he had a nice little summer. He's got some pop. And then Justin Thomas and Elliot Peterson coming from the JUCO ranks hit 14 and 12 each. And Justin Thomas hit 1 home run as a freshman at Georgia a couple years ago. So again, by the way, I wanted to bring this group up because obviously your everyday starters are who we're going to be counting a lot of the totals for, but you're going to get home runs from your bench. Like, there's going to be guys that don't start every day who hit home runs at some point, whether it's midweek games, pinch hit, whatever. For example, last year, Arkansas's non-starters, like, they have their top 9 qualified, like, everyday hitters, but below that, there were 16 home runs. And so, again, I've tallied up some of the numbers and projections for this year, like the projected lineup. I haven't even gotten to Nolan Souza and Ryder Helfrich, who are 2 of the maybe the most talented and most raw power guys in the lineup. And I'm at 74 right now. And that doesn't include potentially 15, 16 for the bench, which would get you to 90. And then Nolan Souza and Ryder Helfrich. So the idea that Arkansas could hit over 100 home runs, and again, you walked with me step by step. I did a pretty conservative estimate for some of these guys, like Kendall Diggs, just giving him 10 home runs. I mean, he's a guy that hit 12 as a sophomore. Had he stayed healthy last year, you could make an argument like, hey, he probably would have maybe even gone up to that 15 range. I just went conservative and gave him 10. Rocco Pepe, I went conservative and gave him 10, despite him hitting 14 last year. Brent Iredale, I know it may not sound conservative, giving him 15 home runs, kind of in the Jared Wagner range. But again, we'll see how it plays out. But I feel pretty confident in saying that, like, at least 15 is kind of where we're looking at there. And I think there's a lot more upside in that bat there for sure with him and Vahiva. And so again, what I'm detailing is not like this crazy, awesome, like could happen thing. It's pretty reasonable projections if you guys think I'm being fair. And you're basically in that 100 home run range without even, and that's like okay, I'm at 74 before Ryder Helfrich and Nolan Souza. I think Souza's a pretty much a lock for double digits. He hit 7 home runs last year and played half the season, and was a true freshman who hit a real wall and like didn't have a hit for like the last month of the season. So he hit 7 home runs as a freshman. Like, if he's playing every day, and based on the jump it seems like he's taken, I think 10 to 12 home runs is like a pretty conservative estimate. Like, I think he's a guy that could maybe even double that total of 7. And Ryder Helfrich, by the way, who hit 3 last year, hit 11 home runs in the Cape Cod League this past summer with a wood bat. And now I know the Cape Cod League, maybe not the same that it used to be, because it's not like you're sending your high-level arms there. But, I mean, 11 home runs with a wood bat in 30-something games, and based on what he did this fall, I mean, he had some mammoth home runs this fall. I believe he had 4 or 5. I mean, this is a guy that he's going to be catching, so it's a little bit tough to, like, really forecast offensive numbers with catchers, because you just never know how playing a full season impacts their body, if they're going to sit out a game, per weekend, or if he's going to DH some. We'll see. I think his bat's pretty valuable, so you'll see that. I think, like, again, we'll go conservative and say 10, but I really think, like, this is a guy that when it's all said and done in his career at Arkansas, he's going to be hitting 15 to 20 home runs. Like, I really do think he's got that type of power. It's just a matter of if he plays every day, if he's, if he can handle, his body can handle catching and being a impact hitter for Arkansas. But so, I mean, if Nolan Souza and Ryder Helfrich each hit 10, that would give you 94 home runs with just your starting lineup. And again, give or take, if you think I'm way off on some of these numbers, you can kind of do the math for yourself. But yeah, 94 home runs is the number that I'm at right now. And that's just with the starting lineup. Doesn't include your bench guys, which, like I said, produced 16 home runs last year. So again, I think Arkansas is in a position to be back in that 2021 range of like 109, like kind of in that 105 to 110. Well, this team has a very real chance to break the school record for home runs, which was 109 set in that 2021 season. I think I'm right on that. Someone can fact check me if not. They broke the school record, I want to say 3 straight full seasons. In 2018, they hit like 94, 95. And I remember thinking that was like the craziest amount ever. I was like, this is never going to happen again. And then they broke it the next year, and then broke it in 2021 with 109. And so then it's dipped off a little bit since then. But I think Arkansas is going to have a real chance to be in that mix to do that. And if we're just going double digit guys, rapid fire, I've kind of added some of the numbers up. I'll pull up some of these just for reference again. Vahiva Aloy, yes, that's 1. Kendall Diggs, yes, that's 2. Nolan Souza, yes, that's 3. Ryder Helfrich, yes, that's 4. Brent Iredale's hitting double-digit home runs. That's 5 for sure. I'm very confident about those 5. I'm going to go Cahillo, I think. If he plays even like 75% of the games, I think he's going to have a good chance. I can't confidently say him, though, because he might be splitting time at first base. But I think between Cahillo, Aloy, Davalon, and Pepe, you're at least getting 1, which would bring you to 6 total. Caleb, I'm tempted to say 7. I think Arkansas might have 7 guys hit double-digit home runs, but I'm going to be conservative and say 6. I'm going to say 6. They will match what they did in 2021 in terms of having double-digit guys. I will, again, later on, I will be making some bold predictions, and I think Arkansas is going to have 2 20 home run guys in Vahiva Aloy and Brent Iredale, which, by the way, they haven't had one since 2017, as we spoke about last show. But that's kind of where my head is at with this whole home run thing in terms of who could be the leader. And by the way, one of the questions, I should pull it back up. I said, so how many double digit guys? Who do you think leads the team in home runs? So again, I think Aloy and Iredale are like the two guys that I view in pretty similar regard. Vahiva Aloy, by the way, you could actually make a case. I mean, he's the returning leader in home runs, but I mentioned Ryder hit 11 home runs. Ryder Helfrich hit 11 home runs in the Cape. Vahiva Aloy was in that same league and hit, I think, 9. So like you can make a case he's not even the most powerful returning bat in the lineup. But I think like he's going to be hitting high in the order. We've seen him hit 14 home runs in both of his college seasons. So like you have a very good like starting base, like a floor for him. And I think like he's going to hit for a higher average. I just think he's a top 50 overall pick. And you just don't usually see those top 50 overall pick guys not, produce in a big way. I think he's going to take a little bit of a step forward offensively, hit closer to that 300 range. And I think he's going to hit 20-something home runs. He's the safe bet for me. Like, I just feel pretty confident. Like, I would be stunned if Vahiva hit fewer than 15 home runs again. Like, if he just matched the 14, I would be pretty surprised, frankly, like just based on adding up all the pieces. Whereas Iredale's transitioning to a new level. I think he's actually like maybe the most well-rounded prospect offensively for this Arkansas team. I mean, in the fall, he led the team in hitting, led the team in home runs, led the team in RBI, led the team in slugging. Like, you can make a case he's the best player on the team. And I think I've even said that. Like, I think he's the best hitter Arkansas has. I think Iredale's maybe the more well-rounded offensive threat, but in terms of just straight up power, like I think I'm going to give the slightest of nods to Vahiva Aloy. I think he ends up being your home run leader. So not a hot take. I'm saying that the guy who led the team in home runs last year is going to do it again. But that's what I got for you. So Caleb, I hope that this episode fulfilled your hopes and joys. And my final answer is 6 on the double digit. I think the Arkansas will have 6 double digit home run guys, and I think Vahiva Aloy leads it. This was a shorter episode, but this is just a question I saw, one that I really wanted to answer, one I wanted to talk about. And I promise I'm done talking about home runs. I've been talking a lot about offense, a lot about Nate Thompson, a lot about whatever. I haven't used the vaunted term launch angle here lately, but I've been talking a lot about home runs and kind of what Arkansas can do offensively. Hopefully I will move on to cooler and better topics. But again, if you guys want to hear me talk about something, just let me know. I'm an open book. I will gladly. I don't think there's a question that I've skipped. If there's a question that I skipped, I at least probably responded on the YouTube comments or at least referenced it somehow. So let me know if you feel like I missed your question or something like that. Definitely reach out and I will try to make that happen. But it's been a great edition of the Baumbastic Podcast. I hope you guys enjoy and enjoy your beautiful Thursday. Stay inside and stay warm the best you can. Baseball season will be here before you know it. Appreciate you guys for tapping in. It's been another edition of the Baumbastic Podcast. I will see you guys tomorrow.